so grateful that we're living in this timeline and able to watch all these matches. Welcome to Wrestling Knows Best, where we talk about the world of professional wrestling and link it to the world of self-development. Like today's topic of how hot women's wrestling is and why it's important. So make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Let's jump into some examples of how hot women's wrestling is right now. Can we all just take a moment to acknowledge how stacked the NXT women's roster is right now? My gosh, we've got Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, Zarya, Sol Ruca, just to name a few. I mean, there's probably about 8 more that I can name off the top of my head, like Jada Parker, JC Jane, Gigi Dolan, Fallon Henley, and to name a few. I didn't even mention Jordynne Grace. Could you believe that on March 10th, we get to see Jordynne Grace versus Roxanne Perez? And that's not even the biggest women's match on the card. We get to see champion versus champion, Julia versus Stephanie Vaquer. Whatever timeline we're on right now has got to be the best timeline. These are some amazing matches that we get to see. And, it's happening at Madison Square Garden, so it's going to be a big match. And honestly, I think Julia is one of the best pound for pound wrestlers out there right now. But for some reason, I feel like Stephanie Vaquer is going to beat her for that championship. I'm hoping that Julia moves up to the main roster. Maybe she'll join Io Sky, or maybe even feud with Io Sky after WrestleMania. But I hope to see that in the next couple of months. I'm just excited. There's so much potential in NXT as a whole, but their women's roster is just absolutely stacked. I think if you put them against any other promotion, whether it be AEW or Raw or SmackDown, NXT has the best women's roster today. Another example of how hot women's wrestling right now are the storylines on the main roster. Last Friday, we got to see Naomi and Bianca Belair have a face-to-face confrontation. That promo was just so real and so raw and so emotional that I can't even put words as to how good that promo was. I don't think we've seen a promo like that ever, to be honest with you. Like, it felt real. It felt like two friends having a real argument about something so real. You could just hear it in their voice and their emotions. And I'm a grown man, and that promo was bringing me to tears. I could really feel it. And then you had Jade come out and just laid the smackdown on Naomi. Like, it is the build of a great feud coming up with Jade and Naomi, and hopefully we get to see Naomi versus Bianca Belair in the near future as well. So I'm just excited for where that's going. And then on Raw, that tag team match that main evented the Raw on February 24th, 2025 was just absolutely amazing. It gave me the feels of mid 90s, Attitude Era Raw match. Like, it had false finishes, it had run-ins, it was just exciting from bell to bell. And I was just so grateful that we're living in this timeline and able to watch all these matches. Like, that match was amazing, and it main evented, and it was in the proper spot. It wasn't one of those, oh, it's a women's titles match, we should probably put it in the main event. It was like, no, this match was the best match, one of the best matches that we've seen in the last couple months, and we got to see it in the main event of Raw in its rightful place. Yeah, that's another example of how hot women's wrestling is. There was also the match in AEW of Toni Storm and Mariah May. Now, I didn't get to see the match, but I saw highlights online, and my gosh, they called it the fairy tale ending. And that's exactly what they gave us, was a fairy tale ending. And that feud has been a great feud throughout, such great storytelling. I was there live when Mariah May won the Owen Hart tournament and turned on Toni Storm. And it was just such a shocking storyline. Again, I'm just grateful to be living in this timeline to watch all of this stuff. It's just absolutely amazing. Speaking of AEW, as much as I love Mercedes Money and slash Sasha Banks as a wrestler, and I think she did great and would do great again in WWE. I'm grateful that she chose her. She bet on herself and she went to AEW. And my understanding, it was for the money, and she's getting paid now what a top male star would be paid. And I think that's great. Men and women should be paid on the same scale, especially when their talents warrant it. And her talent does warrant it. There's a lot of women's wrestlers whose talent warrants the same pay as a male superstar. Last but not least, shout out to Natalya for competing in other promotions. And shout out to Paul Levesque and the team at WWE for allowing her to go to different promotions and compete there. To me, Natalya really is the best of all time. She is the GOAT in the women's division. She's accomplished all the major titles in WWE. With the exception of the newer titles and maybe the tag team titles, she's basically done everything there. And I don't think she has anything left to prove. I mean, sure, she can do a run with the newer titles. I'd love to see her do a tag team title run with Charlotte, of all people, just because I think they are two iconic figures in WWE's women's division. And I think it's time to allow other women's wrestlers to have that place on top. And I think the tag team division would be great for Charlotte Flair and Natalya. That's for another video. But I'm just loving seeing Natalya compete in GCW and NWA. And I'm really looking forward to what she's going to do in those promotions. It seems like she's living out her dreams. Like I said, she's accomplished everything in WWE. So now going to these other promotions, A, she gets to have fun again, but B, she gets to have a much greater impact on the business. And I think that's kind of what it is for her. Like, I haven't seen any videos. I don't know if she's explicitly said it, but I could only imagine that she wants to have a great impact on this business, and her competing in those other promotions is allowing her to do so. So that's why I think that women's wrestling is absolutely hot right now, and it's so important for this world, because it's not only important for the women's division, it's not only important for the wrestling business as a whole, but it's important for the world. When it comes to equality and equity. Wrestling plays such a big part of the pop culture. It's so embedded in what we do. A lot of the words, for example, and phrases that are in wrestling, you hear in the general public. A lot of the things that you see in professional wrestling are a lot of the things that you see in real life. And so to see women's wrestling get absolutely hot is so great, not only for the world of professional wrestling, but also just the world in general. That's my take on it. Let me know in the comments if you agree, or even if you disagree. Happy to discuss more. But that's it from me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video. And remember, wrestling knows best.